Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fourth day of the recap. In this fourth day, I have 2.5. I've won 2 games, and I've drawn 1 game. And if I win this game, I'll have 3.5 going to the next day. If I win the other 2 games on Sunday, then I would have 5.5, and I might potentially be in the money. But if I do lose this game, I'm just praying that the other boards draw so that I have a chance. But yeah, that's wish. You never play hope for chess, you know. So let's go into our 4th game. I start with d4. My opponent responds with d5. I go c4. I trust this Queen's Gambit. I play Queen's Gambit a lot. I've studied this. I'm one of those people who studies Daniel Dubov games, and Agent Eric Icy there and there as well. And I've realized that these openings, they have some good ideas in the middle and they're not too complicated. And me at my level, I don't want too much complications. I don't want to spend 20 to an hour thinking about what's my next move. I wouldn't want that. That's a headache. So e6. The game continues normally. I'm blitzing in this moment. By the way, sorry about that. We don't have the times. But I can tell you that I never got below 30 minutes. Yeah. So with that 1 hour and 30 minutes given at the start of the game, I never got below any point of time because we do kind of move fast at our level. We're 1500s, 1800s FIDE rated. So the game continues normally. We didn't get into the 4 knights Queen's Gambit like the last game, but this time we got into something that I forgot what they really call it. Let me switch back. What do they call this? Queen's Gambit declined, I guess. I don't know what they call it. But yeah, there's Bishop e7. That's a line that Magnus Carlsen played against Ding Liren in the Sinquefield Cup. And you should watch the Sinquefield Cup right now. We're rooting for Perugia to win the Sinquefield Cup. You know, new generation. And Magnus Carlsen played a variation like this, where inside the variation he ended up fiancheroing his light square bishop, and when he moves b6, Ding Liren takes, and this is where was Ding Liren's peak. Ding Liren was a beast at this time. Right now he's still a beast, but he has fallen a little bit. But we'll see with the World Championship coming up. The game continues normally. Bishop f4, c6, cx. I took this because I don't really like to enter the semi-Slav. It is kind of like something like a semi-Slav, flipping this bishop into this type of pawn triangle. I don't like really entering those lines. That 2 kg, 2 kind of positive. So I take. With takes, and I push in e3. a3. Now this move is more or less like a protective move, but that's when I realized that I'm actually going to be entering weird lines, because after this, and if he takes, am I really willing to castle in a structure like this? So likely my opponent didn't do that. My opponent developed. Then I make the right move, preventing my opponent from ever pinning my knight, and also giving my bishop a good square to return to if it ever attacked. The game continues normally. Castles. I play my bishop to e2. He plays his knight in, and I'm like, I don't care about that. What's he really gonna do? My knight is defended. We castle here. He plays his bishop into the center, and it was this confusing move. I didn't understand that he wants also his queen into an attacking position. I didn't understand. I was kind of worried that maybe I had blundered something, because the knight maybe wants to sacrifice the bishop somehow. But there was nothing. So I took, takes. I moved my knight. He takes this. In this position, I did think of taking, then taking, then taking. In this position, I'm not really losing anything. I'm indeed losing a pawn, but not really, because after that there's this. So the game was really gonna be just something that's really interesting, but I don't want those complicated lines. That's why we choose this opening. So I just took back the knight. He moved his bishop. I moved my queen. He blocks my queen's advancement because I want this pawn, but he doesn't want me to take it. But he's also attacking my knight, which is a good move, by the way. It's kind of like a 5th move recommended by the engine, but nonetheless it's still a good move. I move my knight back. He moves b6, which was shocking. Why would you move b6 when your queen is already protecting this? It's a waste of a tempo. So I took advantage, and I moved my rook And actually in this position I was supposed to move the other rook because this rook is playing its own role on the other side. So the game continues. He plays his knight. I attack the center with c4, which is now, this is where the development, where we can kind of say is the middle game, where it's kind of interesting now, like to see how we really develop in this middle game, because there's so much going on. You know, after takes, there's so much, because my queen here, in case of takes, if I don't have this bishop here, I have to move and I'm down a pawn. So it's really interesting. Well, I think we've entered into the 17th move, we've entered into the middle game. The game continues. My opponent does make a mistake. How do I know it's a mistake? Because later on when I analyze with the engine, in this position I was actually supposed to push, but my problem is that I was afraid to push, because after pushing, actually after takes, I'm not losing my pawn. I thought I'm losing my pawn and I didn't want to lose my pawn. In this position you pin the knight, then there's that. Sorry for the fast sequence. There's this pinning the knight. After move, of course, defending this, you take, and at the end of the variation, the rook takes. But I didn't do that. Instead, I took. Instead, actually, in this position, after this, I took. This takes, and I moved back. In position, I'm not recommended to move back. I'm actually recommended to move here. Keep some pressure on that later on with some moves like this. But I'm not an engine, to be fair. The game continues normally. Actually, in this move, in this position, I also moved. My opponent later on told me at the end of the game that in this position I had this powerful move. And this sequence is also crazy. Why is this sequence also crazy? Because after a move such as after a move such as this, you think, okay, fine, we can trade off the knights, not the knight, the rook, sorry. After trading off the rook, you're like, okay, this is useless. Now this comes in. Actually, there's this move. Shocking, right? Of course it is shocking, because this queen. No, that queen is very sorry about that. I'm actually sacrificing the queen. It's not my queen. Okay, this queen here, attacking this. I can't go here, obviously. I can't go here, obviously. It's an obvious thing. But I can go here, which is insane. It's insane. Because at any point that my opponent thinks of attacking my piece, let's say this knight moves here, I can now move into the center and attack the queen. That's an insane variation. Just an insane variation. I don't think I can ever play this in the board. I would love to play a move like this in a big center. Like, I would really be excited to play any game where I would ever be able to play this variation again, because this is a beautiful variation. That's beautiful. Like, do you see that? I've maneuvered my bishop from here to here to here and back here, and it's safe, because now he has to move his queen, and I can move in my queen to attack this knight, this helpless knight, which goes back to here, and anytime it goes back there, my bishop is not really attacked, because I can move it back to where it was. How beautiful is that? Splendid, isn't it? Exactly. But we didn't find that. I'm not an engine. But the game continues normally. I play my knight. Of course, he defended this with his knight. He moves the pawn up again. The game continues normally. No more developments. There's some moves played in between. Actually, in this position, my opponent didn't play that. Played knight fb8 because of the pressure in the center here. I was planning to take, but also in this position, it's how crazy this game was actually. Is that in this position, I can literally sacrifice the bishop. After this, in this position, if my opponent plays as our typical rating and takes this knight, thinking that after this exchange he'll be up a piece. No, in fact, I'm the one who's gonna be up a piece. And someone will be asking, okay, instead of taking the knight, what if they take the rook? Obviously they can take the rook, but the problem is you can never really take the knight again, because after takes, I'm still gonna pick up the knight. It's equal, but I'm in a better position in the sense of I'm attacking this pawn. Can push it up, because I can take it back. I'm also gonna be attacking this easily, and I have a protected pass pawn here by this pawn chain, and I'm just winning. And if I turn on the engine, it's 2 point something plus for me. It's a beautiful game. Just a beautiful game. Like, it's just a beautiful game. But of course, I've missed all this. I've missed all these prospects, and yeah, instead I just played. I didn't take. Instead, in this position, we didn't play that. Played this, then this. I moved back. This, that. Also, I didn't take as well. He collects his move. I still didn't take. In this position, he takes. I take. He plays in the middle. In this position, I have my best advantage in the whole entire game. And what I'm supposed to do here is move my rook and attack this pawn, forcing it to move here, trading off the pawns and being up a pawn in the middle. But I don't do that because I do understand why, because it was the last game of the day and it was around 6 p.m. and again I was watching the St. Louis Sinkfield Cup yesterday, which is today is the 21st of August, by the way. Yesterday was the 20th of August, when I was watching the Sinkfield Cup, and they were talking about in between their breaks, as they gave us 3 hours break in each game. We start the game in the morning at 8 a.m. We finish the game, you have to wait for a period of time, then you play another game around 1, and after 1 you play another game at 6. So that's so much time period where you don't know what to do with yourself. So sometimes you'll be playing soccer, sometimes you're playing football, sometimes you'll be running around, sometimes you'll be on your phone listening to music, sometimes you try to prep, sometimes you'll be playing blitz there and there. So it's kind of confusing. So now when you get back to the playing hall, your mind is all over the place. Unlike being focused that after this game, immediately I went back to another game, or at least you have a 20-minute break. With hours break, you're interacting with everyone, you're eating food, you're getting fatigued, you're getting out of the mood of the game. And yeah, but nonetheless, it was a very good event. The game continues. I play here, my opponent plays there, my advantage is still there. Takes, I take. He makes his rook. Again, my opponent is not playing the best chess, even though he's high rated. Here I'm actually worried. The only point why someone asks why is my knight staying here, I'm worried about these 2 pawns as later on being 1 passport. That's why my queen is not going anywhere. So in this position I was supposed to move my knight here, but instead I don't. Switching off the engine, I move my knight back to a2. I'm not really losing, but the game continues. The maneuvering of the knight going back and forth. I still have my advantage. It's good. In this whole game, I've outplayed my opponent. My opponent has never had an advantage in this whole game. Not even a 1, not even a 0 point, not even a minus 0.1 advantage. So I've outplayed my opponent, essentially. The game continues, my opponent moves back. Why did my opponent move back? Because if here you make a weird move, let's say you move the knight in here, you're of course trying to trade the knight off. There's the fork here, there's the fork forking the, yeah, and in this point you can just resign, because there's no way I'm ever gonna lose in this position, obviously. But of course my opponent does not blunder that. Instead you move the rook back. I move my knight. Of course the whole idea is to come in. After this I have options. I have this option, I have this option, and I have this option, and I also have an option to go back and be in the center. Yeah. So there are so many options, and I choose the best option, knight. And my opponent, if he moves middle, it's worse. And here, and you can see that here it's actually worse. The engine says plus 1.1 and low depth, so in high depth it's actually even more. In this position, I can either move here, forcing him to move this. After moving that, I actually don't know what happens then. Apparently after bishop e, no, after this, I don't know whatever actually happened. After e8, there's no continuation of the engine. There's nothing. So the most recommended move was to go back, or the queen here, protecting so the queen can move into the game now and actually play a part in the game. But this is the moment where I sadly, unfortunately, blundered my knight. I saw ghost. I didn't see that this queen can take, and immediately when I moved my knight and I clicked the clock, it took it. And that's when I realized there is actually no counterplay. Anything that I try to do loses me the game. And I move the bishop. He moves his rook. His rook is ready to attack my file. This rook, if I try to trade them off, the queen can come in. Of course, this protective part, but like it's so difficult to play this type of position. I play there, waiting for he checks me, I block, takes, he moves the pawn. In this position, there's no glimpse. There's kind of the glimpse of life. If I kind of take, then again you can't take because of this. So you're literally sacrificing just to get this, but it doesn't really work. So in this position, I was literally supposed to maybe go for this idea, so that after it takes, maybe I can think of something like this. Obviously, there's mating on. So yeah, I was just lost. In fact, I just lost in the room. I just lost somewhere here. Both these things I lost and I resigned. I'm not a gentleman. I didn't allow checkmate on the board, but this was very heartbreaking because immediately when I lost the knight, I realized I just blundered the whole game away. My whole advantage gone, and that was unfortunate. I go home with a score of 2.5. My opponent goes home with a score of 3.5, and I move down the boards. I go to board 8 or 9, and I'm playing a kid who's 1500 and I'm 1300, which is shocking, but we do understand. Kids play kids. Yeah. See you next in the next recap. It's a horrible game, and I'm out of the money.